Hello dear learner. Welcome back to the Learner's Deck. In part 1, we saw how Vandana Shiva's childhood in the Himalayan forests, the inspiring Chipko movement, and the importance of biodiversity shaped her life and led to the creation of the Navdanya movement. Now, let's continue with the second half of this beautiful chapter, where the author shares an even deeper message about our relationship with nature. Let's first discuss the rights of nature on the global stage. Vandana Shiva begins with a powerful idea. She says that when we truly accept nature as our teacher, we no longer see it as something to control or exploit. Instead, we begin to respect nature as a living partner with its own rights. This is why she appreciates the country of Ecuador, which became one of the first nations in the world to officially recognize the rights of nature in its constitution. This means that nature is not treated merely as property, but as a living entity that deserves protection and respect. She also mentions Bolivia, which promoted the Universal Declaration of the Rights of Mother Earth and played an important role in bringing global attention to the rights of nature. Inspired by Ecuador's constitution and Bolivia's Universal Declaration of the Rights of Mother Earth, the United Nations General Assembly organized an international conference called Harmony with Nature in April 2011 as part of the Earth Day celebrations. The purpose of the conference was to encourage countries to transform systems based on domination into systems built on partnership, equality, and harmony with nature.
Vandana Shiva explains that many of today's environmental problems exist because people believe they are separate from nature. But in reality, human beings are an inseparable part of nature. If we destroy forests, rivers, soil, and air, we ultimately end up destroying ourselves. She also refers to the South African environmentalist Cormac Cullinan, who compares this separation from nature to a new kind of apartheid called Eco-apartheid. Just as apartheid once separated people based on race, Eco-apartheid creates the false belief that human beings are separate from nature. According to the author, we must overcome this way of thinking if we want to build a peaceful, sustainable, and harmonious future. The next section is the Dead-Earth Worldview. Here, Vandana Shiva explains how people's attitude towards nature changed during the Industrial Revolution. Earlier, people looked upon the earth as a living mother who nurtured and cared for everyone. But gradually, nature began to be viewed as lifeless matter that existed only to supply raw materials for industries and economic growth. As a result, biodiversity was replaced by monocultures, and living forests were reduced to sources of timber, minerals, and profit. The author then mentions the English philosopher Francis Bacon, whose ideas encouraged human beings to conquer and control nature instead of living in harmony with it. She also refers to historian Carolyn Merchant, who explains that this change in thinking made it easier for people to exploit nature without feeling responsible for the damage they caused. Once nature was seen as lifeless, protecting it no longer seemed important. Through these examples, Vandana Shiva reminds us that the environmental crisis began not only because of technology, but also because of the way people started thinking about nature.
Now we come to one of the most beautiful sections of the chapter, what nature teaches. Vandana Shiva says that the world is facing many environmental and social challenges today. Therefore, we need to move away from the idea that nature is merely dead matter. Instead, we should once again learn directly from nature herself. She introduces the idea of Earth democracy, which she teaches through the Earth University at Navdanya. Earth democracy simply means respecting the freedom and dignity of every form of life, not only human beings, but also plants, animals, birds, insects, rivers, forests, and soil. It teaches that every living being has a place in the web of life, and human beings have the responsibility to protect this balance. The author explains that this is a shift from Anthropocentrism, where humans are considered the center of everything, to Ecocentrism,
where all forms of life are equally important. Since every human being depends on healthy soil, clean water, fresh air, and biodiversity, protecting nature also protects human rights, including the right to food, water, and a healthy life. At Earth University, people from different countries, including farmers, students, and researchers, learn sustainable farming by working directly with living seeds, healthy soil, and biodiversity, instead of depending only on classroom learning.
The final section is the poetry of the forest. Here, Vandana Shiva beautifully connects her ideas with those of Rabindranath Tagore. She explains that Tagore established Shantiniketan as a learning center inspired by nature because he believed that the forest was the greatest classroom. According to Tagore, India's greatest ideas, culture, and wisdom did not grow in crowded cities. They were born in forests where people lived peacefully with trees, rivers, birds, and other living beings. The forest teaches unity in diversity. Different trees, plants, birds, animals, and insects all live together peacefully while supporting one another. Similarly, human society can also become stronger when people respect diversity and work together. Tagore also believed that forests teach us beauty, joy, freedom, compassion, and harmony. Perhaps his most meaningful lesson is the idea of enoughness. Nature takes only what is necessary. No species tries to take more than its share. Every organism survives by cooperating with others rather than competing endlessly. The author says that if human beings also learn this lesson, we can overcome greed, consumerism, and unnecessary accumulation. Real happiness comes not from possessing more, but from living in balance with nature and sharing with others. Finally, Vandana Shiva concludes that even today, the conflict between greed and compassion, exploitation and cooperation continues. The forest shows us another path, a path of coexistence, mutual respect, and sustainable living. With this, we come to the end of this wonderful chapter. Through her own life experiences, the Chipko movement, biodiversity, earth democracy, and Tagore's philosophy, Vandana Shiva reminds us that forests are much more than collections of trees. They are our greatest teachers. They teach us diversity instead of uniformity, cooperation instead of competition, compassion instead of greed, and harmony instead of exploitation. The central message of this chapter is simple yet powerful. If we learn to live with nature instead of trying to dominate it, we can build a healthier, happier, and more sustainable world for everyone. If this explanation helped you understand the chapter better, don't forget to like this video, share it with your classmates, and subscribe to The Learner's Deck for more easy English lessons. Thank you for watching, and as always, happy learning.